Your mic's got, there we go. Now give it a shot.
Without objection, we'll revert to reports from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Winkler from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration, pursuant to Rule 1.21, designates the following bill to be placed on the supplemental calendar for the day for Saturday, May 16th, 2020.
The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 4554. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 4554, an act relating to state government. The second engrossment.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 4554.
Third reading. Discussion. I recognize the member from Dakota, Representative Hansen, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. House File 4554 is the Legislative and Citizens Commission on Minnesota Resources selections, the most recent version, which went through the Ways and Means Committee last Monday. It also includes the Lands Bill, the DNR and PCA policy bills, and was compiled in the Environment and Natural Resources Finance Committee.
Discussion. Any further discussion to the bill? The member from Meeker, Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And who is the author of this bill?
Representative Hansen.
Representative Hansen. I really want to vote for this one, but I need a more in-depth explanation of the bill. Could we get that? Would Representative Hansen yield, please?
He will yield for a question. Representative Hansen, can you describe the bill in a little bit greater depth? Representative Erdahl.
Yes, thank you. Representative Hansen, would you please give me a more in-depth description of just what this bill does?
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Erdahl, this bill includes the selections from the Legislative and Citizens Commission on Minnesota Resources. If you may remember, there was a conflict over wastewater treatment grants. This bill does not include wastewater treatment grants. It includes a compromise that we put forward for the Senate to consider for renewable energy grants to go to wastewater treatment facilities so that they could see how much they could reduce the energy costs and help the environment. In addition, it has provisions that had received funding in the LCCMR. For example, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency had a component that received about $1 million for studying PFAS, the polyfluoroalkylanes, but they needed $1.4 million. So we restored that $400,000 to that, so it is fully funded. That's one example in the LCCMR. It also includes the Lands Bill. As you know, Representative Erdahl, the Lands Bill is generally a non-controversial bill. It had moved through the process, and that, again, this year was non-controversial. In addition, it includes the DNR policy bill with a variety of topics in there, some that have been heard in previous years and others that have gone through policy and in environment finance. It includes, as part of that, in an earlier version of the bill and the bill that went through Ways and Means, we had a dry cleaner program to help our dry cleaners get rid of perchlorofluorate, which is a pretty toxic chemical. So there is no general fund in this bill. We use the environmental fund to provide cost share, like we do in many other places, cost share for them to convert their facilities from using PERC to non-PERC. In addition, we free up money that was allocated to help with cleanups, because there are many mom and pop dry cleaners out there that need their sites cleaned up, and there's a fund set up for that. So we reached a compromise with the Dry Cleaners Association, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and that compromise is included in here. That occurred from between the time when it left Environment Finance and then we started negotiating with the Senate and then in Ways and Means. So that's an example of some of the bills that are in there in this House File 4554. And House File 4554 is the companion piece to Senator Ingebrigtsen's bill that passed off the floor today. This is not a concurrence to that bill.
Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And would Representative Hansen yield for another question?
Representative Hansen, will you yield to another question?
Yes, I will.
He will yield. Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Hansen, I heard you make references to PFA. Is there a sizable impact of PFA in this bill?
Representative Hansen.
Madam Speaker and Representative Erdahl, when I was referencing PFA, I was using a different acronym, the polyfluoral alkylanes, or the PFAS, the forever chemicals. So that was what I was referring to there. But since you asked about the Public Facilities Authority, what we did with that wastewater compromise is we for solar or renewable energy for wastewater treatments, that would go through the PFA, but it would need to come to the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources through their Emerging Issues Fund. So I think that should answer your question.
Representative Erdahl.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Hansen. A lot of acronyms out there, and my ears always perk up when I hear about PFA because of the importance that it does across the state of Minnesota, particularly in our rural areas. We have all kinds of projects out there under PFA that we'd like to get taken care of this year. Madam Speaker, would Representative Davids yield?
Representative Davids will yield. Representative Erdahl.
Representative Davids, you have anything on your mind you'd like to talk to us about?
Representative Davids.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And if Chairman Hansen would yield.
Representative Erdahl has the floor. He has yielded to you, so you two could talk to each other.
Okay.
Representative Erdahl.
Thank you. Representative Davids, would you describe to us the Chatfield Center for the Arts?
Representative Davids.
Well, thank you, Chairman Erdahl. The Chatfield Center for the Arts is a very, very fine project, and I'm hoping that it will end up in the final bonding bill that we have.
Representative Erdahl, you still have the floor. Would you like the floor?
I'm done.
Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd move to reconsider third reading.
Representative Dowd moves to reconsider third reading. Discussion. Representative Dowd.
Can I speak to the motion? Yeah, thank you. I think it's just disrespectful the way the majority is all of a sudden treating the minority today. There's been no notice of anything. You gave us, I think, 10-minute notice, less than a 10-minute notice to get back to session. You popped a bill on the calendar for the day with about a 7-minute notice. In the Rules Committee meeting, I mentioned in the Rules Committee meeting that this body has a long tradition of treating each other respectfully and giving each other notice of what's going on. And I understand you're a little bit mad because your bill today that you didn't include us on, a bonding bill, There's been no negotiations on a bonding bill whatsoever, so I don't want you to try to fool people in the public that you've been negotiating with the minority about a bonding bill. The bill you put up today had no minority input in it. It was your bill. There was no chance it was ever passing. You knew that. If that's what you're mad about and you're going to treat us like this, I could filibuster all night, or you can just put this calendar on hold and we can all come back tomorrow. This is unacceptable to treat us like this, but it's more unacceptable to treat the public like this. There is no transparency in popping bills on the calendar 6 minutes, 10 minutes. I couldn't, in the notice you gave me to get to session, I couldn't get from my office to here. That's the notice you gave me to get to session. And when I got here, we're already on third reading. And that's the way you want to treat the minority? We're going to have a bumpy last day if that's the way you want to treat us. And you know what? If that's what it takes for you to feel good about yourself and flex your muscles, then go ahead. But buckle up. And you want to know what? I don't even have any amendments to your bill. I just think it's crappy that you went to third reading before we could even get here after you noticed us. That's not the way anybody should treat anyone in this town. And no, I'm not done yet, Representative Winkler. But I'd love for you to defend your actions on that. Because if I can't figure out what's going on and you're emailing me to tell me what time to be here and I can't walk from there to here fast enough, how's the public going to follow what you're doing? That's what you need to explain. So I made a motion to go to third reading without any amendments just because I think it's wrong what you did. And I could filibuster all night at this microphone if I wanted to, but you know what? I'd be punishing myself. I asked you earlier, hey, what's the plan? Because I got an hour and 15-minute drive home and I got 2 dogs at home that haven't eaten or been outside all day. And you didn't give me enough common decency to say, which we have always done. You didn't give me enough common decency to say, hey, you better find somebody to feed your dogs. Luckily, I figured it out after you went to a 2-hour recess that I should send somebody to feed my dogs. But you know what? We are human beings, and we don't treat each other like this. But if this is the way Democrats want to act in the majority, if this is what you want to do with your power, then knock yourself out. But it's not going to help you get your work done. It's not going to help you get your bonding bill that you want. You actually will have to talk to us. You actually will have to engage us to get your bonding bill. So I'm going to ask members very kindly that we hit the reset button right now. And let's move to go to third reading. And I'm not going to offer a single amendment. I don't know if my members are. Maybe they're working on them in a workshop right now. But out of goodwill, I'm going to ask you to just hit the reset button, back up, let's take a deep breath, and let's go through the next 24 hours together. Okay? That's your choice. Because we're either going to do it together, we're all going to be in this together, or it's going to be a bumpy ride. So that's my request of you, and I'm going to ask people to support the motion to go to third reading, to reconsider.
Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaker, Representative Dowd, I rose to support the motion to reconsider. I don't think that it's necessary to support a motion with the tirade. However, we did announce at the time of the recess that it would be for 2 hours and we would return at 9:30. At 9:48, very few members were here, and very few members are here anyway, and we had already provided notice to come back. In addition, I think you very well know this is the last weekend of the legislative session, and nobody should have an expectation that they are anybody but in St. Paul at the state capitol this whole weekend. So to the extent that your years of service do not provide you with that understanding, I think you should reconsider. The last thing I would say is that we have provided more notice, more guidance, and been more open about our plans than we have ever experienced in this House before. And apparently, that creates an expectation that it will be continued in all circumstances and at all times. So, we will support the motion to reconsider third reading. The intent was not to squelch the minority. The intent was to get going tonight and pass another bill.
Discussion to the motion to reconsider third reading. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no.
Aye.
The motion prevails. There are no amendments at the desk. There's an amendment at the desk. We'll pause until members can get a copy of the amendment. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Fabian moves to amend House File Number 4554. The second engrossment as follows. The amendment is coded A12.
The member from Roseau, Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate your indulgence. What the A12 amendment does, we've had a lot of conversations in the state of Minnesota in the last few months with regards to the California emission standards for automobiles. And I've had some conversations with automobile dealers and constituents who are concerned about a couple of different things. Number one, what it's going to do to the cost of new vehicles that are going to be purchased and possibly used ones. Up to $2,000, I've been told by some of our dealers. I'm also concerned about the adoption of the California standards because what we would be doing in that then is once we adopt the standards as I understand it, we will now be relinquishing our ability to regulate the automobile emissions here in Minnesota. Any rules that would be passed, changed in California would automatically be required to happen here in Minnesota as well. I'm very much opposed to the giving up of our autonomy in doing what we think we should be doing here in Minnesota to the state of California. I don't like the idea that this can be done simply through rulemaking. This is a major, major, major change in air emissions and policy here in the state of Minnesota. And I don't think that we should be allowing just the executive branch to do this. I think that we should be doing it through a legislative process so that the folks out there have more say working with their state representatives and their state senators. So in essence, what the A12 amendment does is it would, if you look on line 1.8, actually let's start at 1.7, the agency shall not, or excuse me, the agency shall also adopt standards of air quality, and then underlined, not including maximum allowable standards. So what I'm getting at here is not doing the adoption of the standards as is being proposed. I've had conversations with Commissioner Bishop, and she's told me that they are going to proceed with the adoption of these rules, and I'm very much opposed to it, and I think that Minnesotans, once they find out what's going on, would also be opposed to it as well. And Madam Speaker, I would request a roll call, and I would encourage a yes vote on my amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Fabian requests a roll call. There's not 15 hands in the chamber. There's not 15 people in the chamber. So those who would like a roll call, please email hands@house.mn. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Discussion to the Fabian amendment. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would ask members to oppose the Fabian amendment. There is one thing that unites all of us, and that's breathing. And it's important. It's important for us to try to improve our air quality. I support the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's rigorous public engagement on the clean car rulemaking. I think they have done a good job. As Representative Fabian mentioned, he's talked to Commissioner Bishop. I know that I've talked to her about this. I've had constituents who've talked to her about this. So I think we've had good public engagement, and now is not the time to repeal the authority for setting the clean car standard. I would ask for a no vote.
Discussion. Representative Daudt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. And thank you, Representative Fabian, for bringing this amendment forward. This is an important issue. I'm sure there's probably differing opinions in the chamber on whether we should have higher emission standards for our vehicles or not. I would actually argue that this is more about whether we want the legislature to make decisions in the state or whether you would want the executive branch to make all of the decisions. And I think maybe a rather poignant argument in our current times. I think we as the legislature should be making as many decisions as possible. I think our governor himself came before our caucus this year, and I think he said the same thing, at least he told us he did, when he visited your caucus. And I remember his words very, very well when he said, "Don't give me too much power." And that was just a couple of months ago. So the governor does want legislative involvement in the process. And I think this is an opportunity for us to say, great, Governor, we agree with you. We think the legislature should be involved in this decision. And whether you agree with the issue or not, whether you want higher standards or you don't want higher standards, and we can certainly have an argument about that, this really is as well about just the legislature making the decision, or are we okay letting the governor make all of the decisions? And I think there probably will be a lot of debate about that on other issues as well, but this is our opportunity to say, you know what, we want the legislature to be its co-equal branch of government. We want the legislature to make these sorts of decisions, and we want to have that great debate. So we want to have the hearings, and we want to invite the public in, and we want to talk about this issue in multiple committees, and then make a thoughtful decision on what we think is the right approach moving forward. So really, for those of you that want the legislature to make decisions, I hope that's all of you. This probably should be a unanimous decision. For those of you that want the legislature to make decisions, I would invite you to adopt this language, vote in favor of this amendment. And for those of you that want the governor to make all of the decisions, this is a great first step in letting him make every decision in the future. So please vote against this motion if you're okay with the governor making all of the decisions. And this will be just the first one of all of them that he's going to make. And so, Representative Fabian, thank you for giving us the opportunity to exert our power as a co-equal branch of government and say, you know what, Governor, we agree with you. We don't want to give you too much power, like you said. We want you to work with the legislature, which we know the public wants. And we'd like to go through a very inclusive process where we have hearings on this issue, invite the public to come in, talk about it, and then we make a decision together. And Governor, by the way, you will be involved in that process because when we send you a bill, you will get to sign that or veto that. So that will be your participation in the process. For those of you that vote against this, you'll be saying that we shouldn't work together. We'll just leave this completely up to the governor. We'll let him make this decision, and we won't be involved in that process at all. So it's either we work together or we just let the governor do it. That's your decision here tonight. So I would encourage people to exercise that election certificate that you have framed on your wall in your office, and let's actually do what we were elected to do, and let's retain the authority to make this decision as a legislature, and we will have a thoughtful, inclusive decision-making process which we know all Minnesotans would support, and this should be a unanimous vote. So please vote in favor of the amendment.
The member from Lyon, Representative Swedzinski.
Representative, thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. Thank you, Representative Fabian, for bringing forth this amendment. I think this is an exceptionally important amendment. I just think back to my legislative career and just small things when the executive branch overreaches, like buffer strips and expanding with the conversation I even had in the legislature, or ditch mowing, just common things that we take for granted. And I think when you think of people and their ability to buy things, one of the major purchases we as Americans enjoy the most is first probably our houses or the apartment we rent, but probably the second is our car. And to say that their fuses are getting short, I talked to many business owners across my district. We just got word that the Attorney General is going around and threatening to fine people $25,000 if they open their business, if they're about ready to lose it because they have to pay their statewide property tax or their local property tax, and they have to generate some sort of income to pay those taxes. They're at their wits' end. They don't want a loan. They want to sell stuff, and people are smart. And the idea that we're going to empower the governor and his bureaucrats, which he appointed, to decide what kind of car, which is probably the second most important thing that we will ever purchase throughout our lives, and what that means, and then tie our hands to that the rules would potentially be tied to whatever California wants. I mean, the idea that we're going to follow California is about as wise as what we'd follow Washington, D.C., regardless of who's in the White House. So, folks, I would say just take a small step back, allow common sense to permeate our St. Paul-filled minds, and just do what's right. That, hey, you know what? Elections have consequences. Legislators should have common sense. They should bring the best they have to the table. And the idea that you're going to vote against Representative Fabian's amendment tonight to simply retain a small bit of authority when you're most willing to just give it away, I think we need to stand strong. This is not about cars. This is about common sense, folks, and support the Fabian amendment so that, because I think there's three issues that I think we're facing here is when you have overregulation, when you have top-down government making big decisions, and some of the biggest decisions we make, that you're going to either fight it, there's going to be fraudulent activity, or there's going to be fraud. And, I think we need to have common sense, because if we believe that, we have a representative government, that when we work hard, we elect a person in our local area that's going to do the best job, they're actually going to have some authority. And by voting against the Fabian amendment, you are simply saying, you know what? I want 4 or 5 counties to make all the decisions for me across this state. And I know sometimes that's going to benefit you because you represent one of those counties, but sometimes it's not. And so the best part is having multiple people from across the state making these decisions, not someone sitting in one building in St. Paul. So vote for the Fabian amendment. Just grab a bit of common sense and a little bit of clarity. Thank you.
The member from Brown, Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will Representative Hansen yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hansen, should the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency be allowed to establish or to adopt these standards, will Minnesota at that point be able to establish its own emission standards for vehicles in the state of Minnesota?
Representative Hansen.
Madam Speaker and Representative Torkelson, this is a provision that's not in the bill. It's being added by Representative Fabian to repeal this.
Representative
Madam
Torkelson.
Speaker, Representative Hansen, you did not answer my question. The truth is there are only two emission standards for vehicles in this country, one standard being the standard set by the federal government and the other standard being set by the state of California over a special arrangement with the federal government. Now, some other states have partnered with California, but it puts California in the driver's seat. And should PCA go ahead with the adoption of the California Clean Car Standards, we will then be at the mercy of California. It gives us no real discretion of our own. We are bound by what happens in California. We debated this issue a number of years ago on the House floor and wisely decided not to take this route. And I would hope that we would support the Fabian Amendment and avoid taking this route at this time. Thank you, Madam Speaker and members.
The member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I'm sure you've all heard the term Minnesota is very often a cold California. We've all heard that. And I got to say, that's always just kind of bothered me because I think there's 201 of us here, each sent by, at the moment, roughly 40,000 some odd people to be their voice in St. Paul. I don't want to be California. If I wanted to be California, I would have moved there. But I want to use an example of something that has happened recently in California that is shaping national debate, that is almost universally being talked about as being a bad idea. And Representative Dowd apparently already knows where I'm going to be going with this. It's called GDPR, and it's the California version of GDPR. It's something that they passed, and I know the individual, the assemblywoman that passed it, Assemblywoman Irwin, she passed the bill because they felt like they needed to do that and needed to do something. And I talked with her at an NCSL Cybersecurity Task Force conference, and everybody was giving her these great accolades, saying, "Oh, what an inspired bill that you came up with. It's the gold standard." And we were at dinner later on, and she says, it's actually more like the tin standard. But what's happening is the decisions made in California on this cybersecurity and data security issue is driving what's happening in the rest of the U.S. And even its own author says, bad idea. So here's what I know. I was sent here, all of you were sent here by people who said, "Representative so-and-so, I want you to be my voice in St. Paul. And I want you to listen to me and take that voice down to the Capitol." Now let's talk about what's going on right now. I have a lot of constituents that have been trying to get a message into or a phone call into the administration. Now, the administration's kind of busy trying to handle a lot of the things that are going on day to day, and I get that. But what happens in this is the voice of the people who are out in the districts trying to find out from their executive branch and those that have been put in commissioner roles, they're trying to find a way to get in to talk to those people. They can't. I'm more than happy to forward on the endless stream of emails that I've gotten saying, "I can't get a hold of, pick a department, please be my voice." So I do. That's the whole crux of the Fabian Amendment, is that we are the voice of the people and we are the ones that should be down here making policy. We are not giving away our responsibility to people who can make rules. I think it's a pretty important thing that is in this amendment, and I find it a little disturbing that many are so willing to just, I guess, shred up your election certificate. If it's not that important to you, maybe you should consider retirement speeches in a couple of days. But if we are going to be the voice of the people that are in our districts, this is the kind of thing that they want to talk to us about. So let's not give away, let's not accede our responsibility as legislators. There's 201 of us here. We should all be working on policy like this, not just saying, well, we'll let somebody else take it. And I was a little disturbed by the author's comment a little bit ago over the phone that said, well, I spoke to the commissioner and I was convinced that they had the right answer, so I figured that was basically okay. And I'm paraphrasing, so don't fact check me on the exact words, but that was the message that you just heard a minute ago, wherever the speaker that this comes out over is. It's disturbing that we're willing to rush towards that solution, because here's the deal. If California decides to change its mind, much like they did with the GDPR, if they change their mind, we're on the hook. And I don't know if you've ever been to California recently, but there are some policy issues and the policy decisions that they have made that I don't think any of your constituents, or many of your constituents, depending on where you live, are on board with. So let's reconsider the role of the legislature. And more importantly, we've been hearing since the One Minnesota conferences, and we've heard all so much about One Minnesota. Well, I guess it's one commissioner in Minnesota, or one governor that's in Minnesota that might be making these decisions, instead of going through the legislative process where you have multiple committee stops, multiple votes, multiple amendments to take things in, and take things out. Don't give up your responsibility. Vote in favor of the Fabian Amendment. Thank you.
Further discussion? Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be quick. I don't want to belabor the point, but I thought it was interesting when Representative Nash was talking about California. You know, it's going to be 80 degrees here next week. I think, I'm going to pull it up on my phone actually. I think it's 3 days next week. It's going to be 80 degrees. Well, next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And kind of, you know, I think we all look forward to spring in Minnesota. When we can be outside a little bit. And after being cooped up all winter, and frankly, for those of us who are here in the legislative session, being cooped up here in the Capitol, it's nice. And this is the time of year when you just want to be outside. The birds are chirping, you know, the flowers are blooming. It's just beautiful in Minnesota. And it reminded me today in particular, as I was searching for a place to have lunch, that no restaurants in Minnesota are open. You can't dine in anywhere. And I thought, oh man, how much fun would it be to go and sit on a patio somewhere? And I thought, you know, this is the sort of thing our governor could do. Is he could allow people before next weekend when it's 80 degrees, and there's quite a few 70s on that chart too in the next 7 to 10 days. If he could just let us open up the patios and we could sit outside and restaurants could sell some food to people outside and you know, maybe a drink here or there and try to, you know, they could make some money. Right now they're just dying on the vine. And I thought, you know, people sometimes say, well, this is a liberal position to keep everybody locked up. But, you know, in California, they allow the patios to be open at the restaurants in California. So if we want to follow California's lead, probably the last time I'll ever stand up my microphone and say we should follow California's lead on anything. But in Berkeley, California, and I think that's got to be a very conservative place, right? I mean, because they actually closed the streets down and let the restaurants put the tables out in the streets. So not only could they use their patio, they literally spread them out so that people could still be safe and restaurants could be open and restaurants could actually make money. And if I were to ask somebody, what's the most liberal city in the world? They might say Berkeley, California. But that's the sort of freedom they have in Berkeley, California right now that we don't have here. Please reach out to the governor's office. For all of those restaurant owners, I'm not going to say the name, but another restaurant in St. Paul just announced, a big restaurant, just announced they're not reopening. These restaurant owners are dying on the vine. They can't take any more. And if we want to talk about what California does, and if we think their ideas on emission standards are good, let's follow their lead on restaurants. And let's do it now so people next week can enjoy those 70 and 80 degree days outside on a patio. And so that restaurants can make some money before we kill every last one of them. I think that would be a good lead to follow from California.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, just a couple of more things here in closing. One of the things that concerns me about this possible rule that's being made is that the vast majority of vehicles in Minnesota, about 80% of them, are some sort of an SUV, a pickup, some sort of a crossover type vehicle. The majority of vehicles in California are more of the sedan types, the four doors, the Toyota Corolla type, and I don't necessarily want to mention the name, but I think you get the picture there. There's a lot of Minnesotans that rely on their Suburbans and their pickups to tow the boat up to the lake or to throw a bunch of hockey players in from the metro area and come up to Roseville for a hockey tournament. So the rule doesn't really work very well in Minnesota, and I think that there's going to be a tremendous amount of pushback from people once they find out what's going on with regards to that. One other thing they talk about in rulemaking, if you read what MPCA does, they use a lot of modeling to determine what they're going to do. So I can remember way back in my first term, we were in committee one day and PCA was there talking about air quality in the state of Minnesota. And they had a big map that they handed out. And on the map, there was an area that goes from north of Highway 11, east of Highway 310, over to Lake of the Woods. Well, if anybody knows what's there, you'll know what I'm getting at. That was an area in the state of Minnesota that they determined had poor air quality. So I asked them, how are you doing this? How are you arriving at this? Well, we are doing modeling and we're sampling air in different parts of the state, and then the computer generates what the air quality is in different parts of the state. So I asked them, I said, well, where is your nearest air monitoring device to Roseville County? And they said Becker County, Detroit Lakes area. And the area that I'm describing from 310 north of 11 and over to Lake of the Woods is the big swamp. It's all ag land, and then it's a big tamarack swamp and spruce swamp, and it's all wetlands, and there are virtually zero inhabitants there. And they said through their modeling that it had poor air quality. I think the other thing that I want to get across at this point is that there seems to be a rush in the administration to do this. We are at an amazingly bad time economically in Minnesota, and Leader Doubt was just talking about that. I don't have any idea how long it's going to take to recover from this current situation economically. It's going to be a long time. And I don't think that Minnesotans are going to appreciate seeing skyrocketing prices for their cars because of new rules that are being put in place. And even if you go to North Dakota or Wisconsin or South Dakota or Iowa to buy it, when you bring it back to Minnesota, when you register it, it's going to have to meet the air quality standard. People, this is bad public policy. We should not be doing this in this way. Every single one of us has an election certificate. We represent about 40,000 people. And I think that those people out there want us to be involved in the decisions that we're making. Members, I encourage a yes vote on the 812 amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
There being no further discussion on the amendment, the clerk will take the roll on the Fabian 812 amendment.
Acom.
Acom, no.
Acom, no. Albright.
Albright, yes.
Albright, aye. Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Backer.
Thacker, aye.
Backer, aye. Bonner.
Bonner, no.
Bonner, no. Barr. Barr, aye. Baker.
Baker, yes.
Baker, aye. Becker, Finn.
Becker Finn, nope.
Becker, Finn, no. Bennett.
Bennett, aye.
Bennett, aye. Bernardi.
Bernardi, no.
Bernardi, no. Bierman.
Bierman, no.
Bierman, no. Bow.
Bow, aye.
Bow, aye. Brand.
Brand, no.
Brand, no. Cantrell.
Cantrell, no.
Cantrell, no. Carlson, A.
Carlson A, no.
Carlson, A, no. Carlson, L.
Carlson L, no.
Carlson, L, no. Christensen.
Christensen, no.
Christensen, no. Claflin.
Claflin, no.
Claflin, no. Considine.
Considine, no.
Considine, no. Daniels.
Daniels, yes.
Daniels, aye. Doubt. Doubt, aye. Davids. Davids, aye. Davney.
Dabney votes no.
Davney, no. Dean.
Dean, no.
Dean, no. Damath.
Damath, aye.
Damath, aye. Detmer.
Detmer, aye.
Detmer, aye. Dreskowski.
Truskowski, aye.
Dreskowski, aye. Eklund.
Eklund, aye.
Eklund, aye. Edelson.
Edelson, no.
Edelson, no. Elkins.
Elkins, no.
Elkins, no. Erickson. Erickson. Fabian. Fabian, aye. Fisher.
Fisher, no.
Fisher, no. Franzen.
Franson, aye.
Franzen, aye. Freiberg.
Freiberg votes no.
Freiberg, no. Garofalo.
Garofalo, aye.
Garofalo, aye. Gomez.
Gomez, no.
Gomez, no. Green.
Green, aye.
Green, aye. Grossel.
Grossel, aye.
Grossel, aye. Grunhagen.
Grunegan, aye.
Grunhagen, aye. Gunther. Gunther. Haley.
Haley, aye.
Haley, aye. Halverson. Halverson, no. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hansen.
Hansen, no.
Hansen, no. Hassan.
Hassan, no.
Hassan, no. Hausman.
Hausman, no.
Hausman, no. Heinrich. Heinrich. Heinzman.
Heinzman, aye.
Heinzman, aye. Her.
Her, no.
Her, no. Hertas.
Hertas, aye.
Hertas, aye. Hornstein.
Hornstein, no.
Hornstein, no. Howard.
Howard, no.
Howard, no. Hewitt.
Hewitt, no.
Hewitt, no. Johnson. Johnson, aye. Jordan.
Jordan, no.
Jordan, no. Jurgens.
Jurgens, aye.
Jurgens, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Cleavorn.
Cleavorn, no.
Cleavorn, no. Cagle.
Cagle, no.
Cagle, no. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, no.
Katiza Watun, no. Kosnick.
Cosmic, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Kreshaw.
Grisha, aye.
Kreshaw, aye. Kunish Podine.
Kunish Podine, no.
Kunish Podine, no. Lehman.
Lehman, aye.
Lehman, aye. Lee. Lee, no. Lesh.
Lesh, no.
Lesh, no. Liebling.
Liebling, no.
Liebling, no. Lean.
Lean, aye.
Lean, aye. Lilly.
Lily, no.
Lilly, no. Lippert.
Lippert, no.
Lippert, no. Listlegard. Listlegard. Long.
Long, no.
Long, no. Lucero.
Lucero, yes.
Lucero, aye. Lewick.
Lewis, aye.
Lewick, aye. Mahoney.
Mahoney, nay.
Mahoney, no. Mann, excused. Mariani.
Mariani, no.
Mariani, no. Markwart.
Markwart, aye.
Markwart, aye. Mason.
Mason, no.
Mason, no. McDonald.
McDonald, aye.
McDonald, aye. Mecklin.
Meckland, aye.
Mecklin, aye. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Moeller.
Moeller, no.
Moeller, no. Moran.
Moran, no.
Moran, no. Morrison.
Morrison, no.
Morrison, no. Munson.
Munson, aye.
Munson, aye. Murphy. Murphy. Nash. Nash, aye. Nelson, M.
Nelson M. No.
Nelson, M, no. Nelson, N.
Nelson N. I.
Nelson, N, aye. New. New, aye. Nor.
No. No.
Nor, no. Nornis.
I. Nornis I.
Nornis, aye. Novotny.
Novotny I.
Novotny, aye. O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll I.
O'Driscoll, aye. Olson.
Olson, no.
Olson, no. O'Neill.
O'Neill, I.
O'Neill, aye. Pulowski.
Pulowski I.
Pulowski, aye. Purcell.
Purcell, no.
Purcell, no. Petersburg.
Petersburg I.
Petersburg, aye. Pearson.
Pearson I.
Pearson, aye. Pinto.
Pinto, no.
Pinto, no. Poppy.
Poppy, I.
Poppy, aye. Poston.
Poston I.
Poston, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, no.
Pryor, no. Quam.
Quam I.
Quam, aye. Richardson.
Richardson, no.
Richardson, no. Robbins.
Aye.
Robbins, aye. Runbeck.
Runbeck, I.
Runbeck, aye. Sandell.
Sandell I. No. I'm sorry. Sandell, no.
Sandell, no. Sandsted.
Sandsted, pass.
Sandsted, pass. Sauk.
Sauk, no.
Sauk, no. Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
Schumacher, aye. Schultz.
Schultz, no.
Schultz, no. Scott.
Scott, I.
Scott, aye. Stevenson.
Stevenson, no.
Stevenson, no. Sundin.
Sundin, no.
Sundin, no. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Tabke.
Tabke, no.
Tabke, no. Tice.
Tice, I.
Tice, aye. Torkelson. Torkelson. Erdahl. Erdahl, aye. Vang.
Vang, no.
Vang, no. Vogel.
Vogel I.
Vogel, aye. Wagenius.
Wagenius, no.
Wagenius, no. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, no.
Wozlowick, no. West.
West I.
West High. Winkler. Winkler, no. Wagamot.
Walgamot, no.
Wagamot, no. Zhang Jie.
Zhang no.
Zhang Jie, no. Zhang Ti. Zhang Ti. Joachim.
Joachim, no.
Joachim, no. Speaker Hartman. No. Speaker Hartman, no. Erickson.
Erickson votes aye.
Erickson, aye. Gunther.
Gunther, aye.
Gunther, aye. Heinrich. Heinrich. Listlegard.
Listlegard, aye.
Listlegard, aye. Murphy.
Murphy, no.
Murphy, no. Sandsted.
No.
Sandsted, no. Torkelson. Torkelson. Zhang Ti.
Zhang Ti, no.
Zhang Ti, no. Eklund. Eklund.
Change from yes to no.
Eklund changes from aye to no.
Madam Speaker.
State your name.
Torkelson.
Torkelson.
Torkelson votes aye.
Torkelson, aye.
There being 63 ayes and 69 nays, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. I don't think there are any further amendments at the desk. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 4554.
Third reading. Discussion. Discussion to the bill. Representative Lewick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I've had some significant experience with the state of California. Spent a number of years living there. Our kids graduated from high school there. We went back many times to visit our grandkids. I've got some really, really major concerns with this portion of the bill that basically gives a green light to the MPCA commissioner to basically hook up with California on these auto emission standards. That essentially is just going to head us into big problems. And let's put the whole emission standard thing aside and consider where MPCA is right now. They're literally overwhelmed with legal lawsuits and they're behind on permits and they've just got a complete mess on their hands with the standards that we've got in place today in Minnesota. And now we would willingly, as legislators, send a message, you folks go get busy and you can now become the Minnesota car police. What are we thinking here, folks? I could just tell you, it's been many years in California and I watched those good people there tax their people into the poorhouse, except for the very elite. They regulated the businesses right out of the state. Businesses fled first to Colorado, Arizona, and now they basically picked up and moved to Texas, and it's very specifically because of the kind of heavy-handed regulation that we're willing to just jump right in bed and let's let California run the show on our auto emission standards in Minnesota? I think not. I made the comment here a while back, and I don't know which one of the many conference calls that we've had with the MPCA commissioner in the last couple of months. But I'd suggested to her that if we don't get a hold of this runaway regulations and the issues we've got, we're going to find ourselves with our agencies unable to even, in the case of MPCA, they're not even going to be able to handle a permit to regulate a porta potty. They're going to end up in court like they are on a whole bunch of other things. And the DNI, I've mentioned the same thing to the DNR commissioner, and I got a puzzled and then a somewhat angry look from the governor some time ago when I mentioned that he got to slow down on this. And I just can tell you from experience, I lived there and watched how they operate in California with respect to regulations, in particular auto emission regulations. And we are just selling our soul here by sending a green light to MPCA to jump in bed with those California standards. So I am disappointed that we didn't quite get Representative Fabian's amendment on, so I won't belabor the point. But I can just tell you, I'm afraid that we're all going to rue the day should we move forward this bill. So I certainly cannot support this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Wright, Representative Lucero.
Question. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm wondering if the bill author would yield for a question.
Representative Hansen, will you yield for a question?
Yes, I will.
He will. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Hansen. I am just perusing the bill language as quickly as I can. I'm not on any of the committees that this bill language would have gone through, so I'm seeing this for the first time. And I'm in particular drawn to lines 29.25, or at least beginning there, where it talks about snakes, lizards, and salamanders. It appears that there is a new permit process required in order to sell snakes, lizards, and salamanders. I'm wondering if you can explain to me just some of the background of how did we, why is this necessary? Why were snakes, lizards, salamanders singled out? When I think there could also be a longer list, such as Komodo dragons, Gila monsters, geckos, and perhaps even hippopotami. If you would, again, just explain. Thank you.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a portion of the DNR policy bill that the agency came forward with to provide some oversight to the exotic animal trade. I think, Representative Lucero, you may be aware of what's happened in some other states as snakes have got out. It sounds as if you're asking for expanding the government role here. I'd be happy to discuss that with you sometime in the future, but right now this is the limited component that the Department of Natural Resources has brought forward.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate that. So this is language that the department brought forward. So then just one more quick question, if you would yield again.
Representative Hansen, will you yield again?
Yes, I will.
He will yield. Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Okay, so then in particular to snakes, I don't have much background with lizards and salamanders, but with snakes, there are obviously exotic snakes, and then there's common snakes, like the garter snake. I'm actually having recently, with the thaw and the melting of the snow here, doing some of the spring cleanup in my yard. I do have stacks of lumber that I recently was reshuffling around, and lo and behold, I actually discovered a dead and dried up, or dehydrated, I guess you could call it, garter snake. So very common. So I'm looking at the bill language. I don't see any definition to what snake is. Is this limited, or is this all snakes, even super common snakes? If I wanted to start a garter snake business and to sell them, would I need to get a permit to breed and sell garter snakes?
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, the native snakes, we do have some native snakes that are endangered. For example, the timber rattlesnake is very endangered, and we do have precedent for this where I believe a few years ago we said even if you were going to take native fish into the aquarium trade, you had to have a permit. So wildlife belong to all of us, and so we want to make sure that those are protected, particularly those that are species of greatest concern.
Representative Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Okay, well, just so members are understanding what they're voting on here, there's language in this provision here, line 29.25 through 0.28, that the commissioner must prescribe conditions and may issue permits to breed, propagate, and sell snakes, lizards, and salamanders. So based on the question and the answer I just received, I don't see any limitation to any type of snake. So it can be super common. So we definitely, I don't think, want to expand into such a common type of reptile in Minnesota here that we need to grow government to such an extent that we are now interfering with Minnesotans' ability to grow or breed, I should say, trade, sell, or whatever they want to do with garter snakes. We definitely do not want to see an expansion of government interfering with our garter snakes. And so, you know, I don't even know if we have a state snake here in Minnesota, but if we did, it certainly would be the garter snake. And we would certainly not want to regulate the state snake if it ever were the garter snake. So members, please vote no. Thank you.
Is that a question or has he concluded?
There was no question there, but I could certainly go on if you'd like me to.
The member from Traverse, Representative Backer.
Can be summarized.
Representative Backer.
Madam Speaker, thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Really, one sentence of what this bill really does, it's overreach from St. Paul into greater Minnesota, several aspects of this bill. We've seen in the past what happens when Metro folks come out to greater Minnesota and try to dictate policy. We get a buffer bill that really does not accomplish what it was supposed to. We get the problems with ditch water, drainage, that is really where the problem is in greater Minnesota. I've been trying to work on that for years so we could have cleaner lakes and rivers. We also get land that's bought by the state, and as people who come out in greater Minnesota will see, is that land, most of that land has out of control weeds. So the taxpayers, the property taxpayers in greater Minnesota and Traverse and Big Stone and Clay County and Becker County, they have to do things to prevent the weeds because the state's not taking care of it. So, and then we know what happens when St. Paul tries to dictate policy. We have businesses in greater Minnesota that are suffering right now. One of the challenges I have in my district, which I'm the only person that, a district that borders in North Dakota and South Dakota, is we have people moving into North Dakota and South Dakota to get away from the regulations that we see, California state. I mean, with this car emission, you know, what happened here with what the governor's doing with shutting down our businesses, that's putting a nail in the coffin. I've mentioned that a couple of days ago. We're seeing businesses that are shutting down. We can't afford that. And then we have a car emission. People are going to say, well, I'm just going to move to, which they have. That's why Fargo is 3 times bigger than Moorhead. We know that. We know that Sioux Falls is bigger than Laverne and Pipestone, and Watertown is bigger than Canby, and Sisseton's bigger than Browns Valley because of these regulations. People are like, get away. And so I am voting against this bill for the simple reason it's just another heavy hand of St. Paul on the good folks of greater Minnesota. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members.
Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If Representative Hansen would yield to a question.
Representative Hansen, will you yield for a question?
Yes, I will.
He will yield. Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's getting late in the process, and I'm hoping, Representative Hansen, that you could give me some kind of an update on where we're at with the Senate. I'm hearing rumblings that there's some question marks being drawn around the LCCMR and whether or not there may be some obstacles to that bill going forward. And I'm hoping that you could give us some kind of an update.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Representative Heinzman. I was actually pleased this morning that the Senate added their version of the LCCMR into their bill. So prior to that, there was no LCCMR in the Senate bill, nor were there any extensions to the people who have grants that expire on June 30th. So those provisions were added in. So I actually take that as progress, that this bill would match up with that bill, its companion bill. Granted, they are not identical, but as you know, in a conference committee or in a unique discussion such as we are in right now, the fact that the Senate does have LCCMR in their bill, I think, is positive and a hopeful sign in these last hours.
Representative Heinzman.
That's all for now. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any further discussion to the bill? Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If Representative Hansen would yield to a few questions, I'd appreciate that.
Representative Hansen, will you yield?
Yes, I will.
He will. Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hansen, I'm here at my desk and I've got a flashlight with me. I guess I'll put it in my pocket so I don't get accused of having a prop, but it's getting late, Representative Hansen, and some of the process that's been involved here in the last day or so has been concerning to me, and you were highly critical of some of the things that were going on before. Can you explain to me why you're bringing this bill to the floor this late at night?
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Fabian. Well, this bill did pass through Ways and Means last Monday. Its second engrossment has been out there for folks to see. I did not have any author's amendments to the bill. It is what it was posted, and we did have discussion in Ways and Means as within the Environment Finance Committee prior to that. So yes, it is dark. I'm glad you have your flashlight with you. I've got mine along as well, and I'm hopeful that we can move forward with this bill. I'd ask members to support it. It's a good bill, and there's a lot of this we've already agreed to with the Senate. So I'm hopeful in these last hours we can come to a compromise where we can get a bill that would be signed by the governor and would do good work for the people of Minnesota.
Representative Fabian.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. So somebody's echoing over here, dark of the night, but Representative Hansen, can you tell me how much money you have in your bill for funding for legal fees for the MPCA and the DNR to defend themselves, their decisions in court with regards to the polymet?
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Fabian, there are no general fund fees in this bill, and therefore there are zero legal costs, legal fees in this bill. There are the LCCMR appropriations. As you know, some of the lands bill provisions have a fiscal consequence. The dry cleaners compromise uses some of the environment fund, and that is about it for the expenditures. Oh, there's a little bit of lottery and lieu expenditure that's in a dedicated account as well. So to your question, there is no general fund, and there is no fund for legal fees in this bill.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If Representative Hansen would yield to another question or two, please.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, Representative Hansen, just real quickly, refresh my memory. How much money was the DNR and MPCA asking for in aggregate to continue or to defend the decisions with regards to Polymet?
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I believe we were, each agency was looking at, it's changed over time. We've had the budget request and the supplemental request. I think it was 2 or 3 million was the latest request, but it's my understanding that there is some money from a prior appropriation that may be available as well. I do think the sooner we get completed with our work this evening, that would give the leadership and the executive the opportunity to start negotiating some of these financial matters relating to a supplemental budget.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hansen, one of the things that was talked about a fair amount in committee, and I think the members should know and Minnesotans should know, has to do with the food packaging containing PFAS. And I find it to be literally unworkable. I don't know how you're going to be able to do this. So what I want to do is lay out for the folks. Food packaging, in my mind, is the packaging that actually touches the food. But in the bill, the way you have it, it even gets down to if something is being shipped in a crate, on a pallet, and it's completely enclosed, and now we're talking about the straps and the buckles and so forth that hold that in place, either in a truck or in a shipping container of some sort. How is it possible, and we never did hear the testimony, how is it possible for PFAS to work its way from a buckle that's on the outside of a shipping crate that's attached to a strap of some sort to fasten it down? How is it possible for that PFAS to get into, say, the hamburger or the fruits and vegetables that are inside of the crate?
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Fabian. The more forever chemicals that we put into the environment, the potential more exposure we get. So when we're using it in the packaging, which touches or is near our food, it doesn't take much where there is the sloughing of those forever chemicals. And they're called forever chemicals for a reason, because they last forever. So by prevention is much better than trying to clean up. And providing for prevention by removing the toxicant, the forever toxicant, from the environment helps reduce the load of PFAS, not only in us, but in future generations.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, Representative Hansen, I don't agree with that. I don't necessarily disagree with the PFAS in general, but here it's talking specifically about food packaging, and it's not in contact with the food, and I don't see that as a problem. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the public hearings that are going to be required on the water permits. DNR has said it's going to be a fairly expensive proposition. It's going to be imposed, the agencies have said that they're going to have the public, or you want them to have these public hearings. It's going to be a pretty rigorous thing for cities and maybe a mining industry or a sugar beet plant or a paper mill. What is the reason for doing this? I mean, this is going to be a large increased cost. It's going to take a lot of time. And the product in the end is going to be improved how?
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When there's public engagement, we have a better outcome.
Representative Fabian.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hansen, I don't necessarily believe that. I think that there's a lot of responsible people out that are running our cities and so forth. We don't need the state to come in with a big hammer again and try to have these public hearings. It's going to create all kinds of time and money for our local governments. And especially if we're talking about California and what's going on with the public there, maybe we don't want to do some of this stuff. So members, I would encourage a no vote on the bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any further discussion to the bill? Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to be clear in case there's some confusion. There's nothing in this bill on the clean car rules. Representative Sabian's amendment was trying to insert language to repeal rulemaking. So this bill that's in front of you, House File 4554, is silent on that issue. But it does provide over $60 million in funds from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund that will go all over the state, that are science-based projects that have been going through a process and will continue to go through a process where we've tried to find compromise with the Senate. I'm hopeful that we can find that compromise, but this bill has good things in it. It has the lands bill. It has good policy. It has the LCCMR, and I'm hopeful we can get to a conclusion. I ask for your support for House File 4554.
The clerk will take the roll on House File 4554.
Acom.
Acom, aye.
Acom, aye. Albright.
Albright, no.
Albright, no. Anderson.
Anderson, no.
Anderson, no. Backer.
Backer, no.
Backer, no. Bonner.
Bonner, aye.
Bonner, aye. Barr. Barr, no. Baker.
Baker, no.
Baker, no. Becker, Finn.
Becker, Finn, yes.
Becker, Finn, aye. Bennett.
Bennett, no.
Bennett, no. Bernardi.
Bernardi, aye.
Bernardi, aye. Bierman.
Bierman, aye.
Bierman, aye. Bow.
Bo, no.
Bow, no. Brand.
Brand, yes.
Brand, aye. Cantrell.
Cantrell, aye.
Cantrell, aye. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, aye.
Carlson, A, aye. Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, aye.
Carlson, L, aye. Christensen.
Christensen, aye.
Christensen, aye. Claflin.
Claflin, aye.
Claflin, aye. Considine.
Considine, aye.
Considine, aye. Daniels.
Daniels, no.
Daniels, no. Doubt. Doubt, no. Davids. Davids, no. Davney.
Dabney, aye.
Davney, aye. Dean.
Dean, aye.
Dean, aye. Damath.
Damath, no.
Damath, no. Detmer.
Detmer, no.
Detmer, no. Drazkowski.
Groskowski, no.
Drazkowski, no. Eklund.
Eklund, aye.
Eklund, aye. Edelson.
Edelson, aye.
Edelson, aye. Elkins.
Elkins, aye.
Elkins, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, no.
Erickson, no. Fabian. Fabian, no. Fisher.
Fisher, aye.
Fisher, aye. Franzen.
Franson, no.
Franzen, no. Freiberg.
Freiberg votes yes.
Freiberg, aye. Garofalo.
Garofalo, no.
Garofalo, no. Gomez.
Gomez, aye.
Gomez, aye. Green.
Green, no.
Green, no. Grossel.
Grossel, no.
Grossel, no. Grunhagen.
Grunehagen, no.
Grunhagen, no. Gunther.
Gunther, no.
Gunther, no. Haley.
Haley, no.
Haley, no. Halverson. Halverson, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, no.
Hamilton, no. Hansen.
Hansen, aye.
Hansen, aye. Hassan.
Hassan, yes.
Hassan, aye. Hausman.
Houseman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Heinrich.
Heinrich, no.
Heinrich, no. Heinzman.
Heinzman, no.
Heinzman, no.
Her, aye.
Her, aye. Hertas.
Hertas, no.
Hertas, no. Hornstein.
Hornstein, aye.
Hornstein, aye. Howard.
Howard, aye.
Howard, aye. Hewitt.
Hewitt, aye.
Hewitt, aye. Johnson. Johnson, no. Jordan.
Jordan, aye.
Jordan, aye. Jurgens.
Jurgens, no.
Jurgens, no. Keel.
Keel, no.
Keel, no. Cleavorn.
Cleaborn, aye.
Cleavorn, aye. Cagle.
Kegel, aye.
Cagle, aye. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, aye.
Katiza Watun, aye. Kosnick.
Cosmic, no.
Kosnick, no. Kresha.
Kresha, no.
Kresha, no. Kunish Podine.
Kunish Podine, aye.
Kunish Podine, aye. Lehman.
Lehman, no.
Lehman, no. Lee. Lee, aye. Lesh.
Lesh, aye.
Lesh, aye. Liebling.
Liebling, aye.
Liebling, aye. Lean.
Lean, aye.
Lean, aye. Lilly.
Lily, aye.
Lilly, aye. Lippert.
Lippert, aye.
Lippert, aye. Lislegard. Lislegard. Long.
Long, aye.
Long, aye. Lucero.
Lucero, yes.
Lucero, aye. Lewick.
Lewick, no.
Lewick, no. Mahoney.
Mahoney, aye.
Mahoney, aye. Mann. Excused. Mariani.
Mariani, aye.
Mariani, aye. Markwart.
Markwart, aye.
Markwart, aye. Mason.
Mason, aye.
Mason, aye. McDonald.
McDonald, no.
McDonald, no. Mecklin.
Mecklin, no.
Mecklin, no. Miller.
Miller, no.
Miller, no. Moeller.
Moeller, aye.
Moeller, aye. Moran.
Moran, aye.
Moran, aye. Morrison.
Morrison, aye.
Morrison, aye. Munson.
Munson, no.
Munson, no. Murphy.
Murphy, aye.
Murphy, aye. Nash. Nash, no. Nelson, M.
Nelson M, aye.
Nelson, M, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson N, no.
Nelson, N, no. New. New, no. Nor.
Nor, aye.
Nor, aye. Nornis.
Nornis, no.
Nornis, no. Novotny.
Navani, no.
Novotny, no. O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll, no.
O'Driscoll, no. Olson.
Olson, aye.
Olson, aye. O'Neill.
O'Neill, no.
O'Neill, no. Pulowski.
Pulowski, aye.
Pulowski, aye. Purcell.
Purcell, aye.
Purcell, aye. Petersburg.
Petersburg, no.
Petersburg, no. Pearson.
Pearson, no.
Pearson, no. Pinto.
Pinto, aye.
Pinto, aye. Poppy.
Poppy, aye.
Poppy, aye. Poston.
Poston, no.
Poston, no. Pryor.
Pryor, aye.
Pryor, aye. Quam.
Guam, no.
Quam, no. Richardson.
Richardson, aye.
Richardson, aye. Robbins. Robbins, no. Runbeck.
Runbeck, no.
Runbeck, no. Sandell.
Sandell, aye.
Sandell, aye. Sandsted.
Sandsted, aye.
Sandsted, aye. Sauk.
Soak, aye.
Sauk, aye. Schumacher.
Schumacher, no.
Schumacher, no. Schultz.
Schultz, aye.
Schultz, aye. Scott.
Scott, no.
Scott, no. Stevenson.
Stevenson, aye.
Stevenson, aye. Sundin.
Sundin, aye.
Sundin, aye. Swazinski.
Swazinski, no.
Swazinski, no. Tabke.
Tabke, aye.
Tabke, aye. Tice.
Tice, no.
Tice, no. Torkelson.
Torkelson, no.
Torkelson, no. Erdahl.
Erdahl, no.
Erdahl, no. Vang.
Vang, aye.
Vang, aye. Vogel.
Vogel, no.
Vogel, no. Wagenius.
Wagenius, aye.
Wagenius, aye. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, aye.
Wozlowick, aye. West.
West, no.
West, no. Winkler. Winkler, aye. Wolgamott.
Wolgamott, aye.
Wolgamott, aye. Zhang Jie.
Zhang Jie, aye.
Zhang Jie, aye. Zhang Ti.
Zhang Ti, aye.
Zhang Ti, aye. Joachim.
Joachim, aye.
Joachim, aye. Speaker Hortman. Speaker Hortman, aye. Liz Lagarde. Liz Lagarde.
Liz Lagarde, aye.
Liz Lagarde, aye.
Madam Speaker,
Lucero. Lucero.
Lucero changes from yes to no.
Lucero changes from aye to nay. Kresha.
I want to make sure my vote was no. Kresha votes no.
Yes, Kresha, no.
There being 74 ayes and 59 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3230. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3230, number 7 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to energy.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 3230.
Third reading. Recognize the Majority Leader, Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, we have 2 more bills on the calendar tonight, and we just want to get those done and make sure that we don't run out of time. So I move that the House be allowed to meet past midnight.
Representative Winkler moves that the House be allowed to meet past midnight. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
No.
Representative Bowe. To your bill.
Madam Speaker, I will be quick and not take us to midnight. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And members, I'm pleased to introduce tonight and bring to you House File 3230. This is a clean, easy, bipartisan, non-controversial bill that seeks to update old, outdated statutory language and seeks to update and those outdated statutory language. So for many years, the state of Minnesota has required our largest electric utilities to encourage and promote the use of fluorescent bulbs and HID lamps for energy efficient lighting. And then every year, we would turn around and spend a small fortune to collect and manage those old bulbs because they contain mercury, which is a potent neurotoxin. But that's counterproductive. And so this bill updates statutory language and allows those utilities to promote and encourage LED bulbs because LED bulbs are more energy efficient. LED bulbs are longer lasting than fluorescent. And at the end of their lifespan, LED bulbs are non-hazardous and so therefore much cheaper and easier to manage. And the environmental impact is negligible if they're not managed properly. So all the affected parties have been contacted and they are in full support, and that includes Xcel Energy, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and all 87 counties in Minnesota through their household hazardous waste collection programs who do collect and manage most of those used fluorescent bulbs that we talked about. So in closing, I'd like to thank Chair Wagenius and Vice Chair Long, and indeed all of the Energy and Climate Division members and staff for supporting and moving this bill along. I'd like to thank my bipartisan co-authors on the bill. And last but not least, I'd like to thank all the members for their support today. And I would ask for a yes vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any discussion to the bill? Hearing none, clerk will take the roll on the bill.
Acom.
Acom, aye.
Acom, aye. Albright.
Albright, aye.
Albright, aye. Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Backer. Backer. Bonner.
Bonner, aye.
Bonner, aye. Barr. Barr, aye. Baker.
Baker votes aye.
Baker, aye. Becker Finn.
Becker Finn, aye.
Becker Finn, aye. Bennett.
Bennett, aye.
Bennett, aye. Bernardi.
Bernardi, aye.
Bernardi, aye. Bierman.
Chairman, aye.
Bierman, aye. Bow.
Bo, aye.
Bow, aye. Brand.
Brand votes aye.
Brand, aye. Cantrell.
Cantrell, aye.
Cantrell, aye. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, aye.
Carlson, A, aye. Carlson, L.
Carlson L, aye.
Carlson, L, aye. Christensen.
Christensen, aye.
Christensen, aye. Claflin.
Claflin, aye.
Claflin, aye. Considine.
Considine, aye.
Considine, aye. Daniels.
Daniels, aye.
Daniels, aye. Doubt. Doubt, aye. Davids. Davids, aye. Davney.
Dabney, aye.
Davney, aye. Dean.
Dean, aye.
Dean, aye. Damuth.
Damuth, aye.
Damuth, aye. Detmer.
Detmer, aye.
Detmer, aye. Drazkowski.
Kuskowski, aye.
Drazkowski, aye. Eklund.
Eklund, aye.
Eklund, aye. Edelson.
Edelson, aye.
Edelson, aye. Elkins.
Elkins, aye.
Elkins, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Fabian. Fabian, aye. Fisher.
Fisher, aye.
Fisher, aye. Franzen.
Franson, aye.
Franzen, aye. Freiberg.
Freiberg votes yes.
Freiberg, aye. Garofalo.
Garofalo, aye.
Garofalo, aye. Gomez.
Gomez, aye.
Gomez, aye. Green.
Green, aye.
Green, aye. Grossel.
Grossel, aye.
Grossel, aye. Grunhagen.
Grunehagen, aye.
Grunhagen, aye. Gunther.
Gunther, aye.
Gunther, aye. Haley.
Haley, aye.
Haley, aye. Halverson. Halverson, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hansen.
Hanson, aye.
Hansen. Hansen, I. Hassan.
Hassan, I.
Hassan, I. Hausman.
Hausman, I.
Hausman, I. Heinrich.
Heinrich, aye.
Heinrich, I. Heinzman.
Heinzman, aye.
Heinzman, I. Her.
Her, I.
Her, I. Hertos.
Hertos, aye.
Hertos, I. Hornstein.
Hornstein, aye.
Hornstein, I. Howard.
Howard, aye.
Howard, I. Hewitt.
Hewitt, aye.
Hewitt, I. Johnson. Johnson, I. Jordan.
Jordan, I.
Jordan, I. Jurgens.
Jurgens, aye.
Jurgens, I. Keel.
Keel, I.
Keel, I. Cleavorn.
Cleaborn, I.
Cleavorn, I. Cagle.
Cagle, I.
Cagle, I. Katiza Wattoon.
Katiza Wattoon, I.
Katiza Wattoon, I. Kosnick.
Kosnick, aye.
Kosnick, I. Kreshaw.
Krisha, I.
Kreshaw, I. Kunish Podine.
Kunish Podine, I.
Kunish Podine, I. Lehman.
Lehman, I.
Lehman, I. Lee. Lee, I. Lesh.
Lesh, aye.
Lesh, I. Liebling.
Liebling, I.
Liebling, I. Lean.
Lean, aye.
Lean, I. Lilly.
Lily, I.
Lilly, I. Lippert.
Lippert, aye.
Lippert, I. Lislegard.
Lislegard, aye.
Lislegard, I. Long.
Long, aye.
Long, I. Lucero.
Lucero, yes.
Lucero, I. Lewick. Lewick, I. Mahoney.
Mahoney, aye.
Mahoney, I. Mann, excused. Mariani.
Mariani, aye.
Mariani, I. Markwart.
Markwart, aye.
Markwart, I. Mason.
Mason, I.
Mason, I. McDonald.
McDonald, aye.
McDonald, I. Mecklin.
Meckland, aye.
Mecklin, I. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, I. Moeller.
Bowler, I.
Moeller, I. Moran.
Moran, I.
Moran, I. Morrison.
Morrison, I.
Morrison, I. Munson.
Munson, aye.
Munson, I. Murphy.
Murphy, I.
Murphy, I. Nash. Nash, I. Nelson, M.
Nelson, M, aye.
Nelson, M. I. Nelson, N.
Nelson, N, aye.
Nelson, N. I. New. New, I. Nor.
Nor, aye.
Nor, I. Nornis.
Nornis, aye.
Nornis, I. Novotny.
Novotny, aye.
Novotny, I. O'Driscoll. O'Driscoll. Olson.
Olson, I.
Olson, I. O'Neill.
O'Neill, I.
O'Neill, I. Pulowski.
Pulowski, aye.
Pulowski, I. Purcell.
Purcell, aye.
Purcell, I. Petersburg.
Petersburg, aye.
Petersburg, I. Pearson.
Pearson, aye.
Pearson, I. Pinto.
Pinto, aye.
Pinto, I. Poppy.
Poppy, I.
Poppy, I. Poston.
Poston, aye.
Poston, I. Pryor.
Pryor, I.
Pryor, I. Quam.
Quam, aye.
Quam, I. Richardson.
Richardson, I.
Richardson, I. Robbins. Robbins, I. Runbeck.
Runbeck, I.
Runbeck, I. Sandell.
Sandell, aye.
Sandell, I. Sandsted.
Sandsted, I.
Sandsted, I. Sauk.
So, aye.
Sauk, I. Schumacher.
Schumacher, I.
Schumacher, I. Schultz.
Schultz, I.
Schultz, I. Scott.
Scott, I.
Scott, I. Stevenson.
Stevenson, aye.
Stevenson, I. Sundin.
Sundin, aye.
Sundin, I. Swazinski.
Lozinski, aye.
Swazinski, I. Tabke.
Tadke, aye.
Tabke, I. Tice.
Tice, I.
Tice, I. Torkelson.
Torkelson, aye.
Torkelson, I. Erdahl.
Erdahl, aye.
Erdahl, I. Vang.
Vang, I.
Vang, I. Vogel.
Vogel, aye.
Vogel, I. Wagenius.
Wagenius, I.
Wagenius, I. Wozlowick.
Wadsworth, aye.
Wadsworth, aye. West.
West, aye.
West, aye. Winkler. Winkler, aye. Walgamot.
Wolgamott, aye.
Walgamot, aye. Zhang Jie.
Zhong J, aye.
Zhang Jie, aye. Zhang Ti.
Zhang Ti, aye.
Zhang Ti, aye. Joachim.
Joachim, aye.
Joachim, aye. Speaker Hartman. Speaker Hartman, aye. Backer.
Aye. Backer, aye.
Backer, aye. O'Driscoll. O'Driscoll.
There being 132 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 3020. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 3020, number 6 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to local government.
There are no amendments at the desk, right?
Right.
The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 3020.
Third reading. I recognize the member from Chisago, the author of the bill, Representative New.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and members, please vote yes.
Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the author yield for a series of questions?
Will she yield? She will yield. Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative, would you mind telling us what this bill is about?
Representative New.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, this bill simply allows the Water and Light Commission in the City of North Branch to move from a 3-member commission to a 5-member commission.
Further discussion of the bill? Hearing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill.
Acom.
Acom, aye.
Acom, aye. Albright.
Albright, aye.
Albright, aye. Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Backer.
Backer, aye.
Backer, aye. Bonner.
Bonner, aye.
Bonner, aye. Barr. Barr, no. Baker.
Baker, aye.
Baker, aye. Becker, Finn.
Becker, Finn, aye.
Becker, Finn, aye. Bennett.
Bennett, aye.
Bennett, aye. Bernardi.
Bernardi, aye.
Bernardi, aye. Bierman.
Bierman, aye.
Bierman, aye. Bow.
Bow, aye.
Bow, aye. Brand.
Aye.
Brand, aye. Cantrell.
Cantrell, aye.
Cantrell, aye. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, aye.
Carlson, A, aye. Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, aye.
Carlson, L, aye. Christensen.
Christensen, aye.
Christensen, aye. Claflin.
Claflin, aye.
Claflin, aye. Considine.
Considine, aye.
Considine, aye. Daniels.
Daniels, aye.
Daniels, aye. Doubt. Doubt, aye. Davids. Davids, aye. Davney.
Dabney, aye.
Davney, aye. Dean. Dean. Damath.
Damath votes aye.
Damath, aye. Detmer.
Detmer, aye.
Detmer, aye. Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, aye.
Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, aye.
Drazkowski, aye. Eklund.
Eklund, aye.
Eklund, aye. Edelson.
Edelson, aye.
Edelson, aye. Elkins.
Elkins, aye.
Elkins, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Fabian. Fabian, aye. Fisher.
Fisher, aye.
Fisher, aye. Franzen.
Hansen, aye.
Franzen, aye. Freiberg.
Freiberg votes yes.
Freiberg, aye. Garofalo.
Garofalo, aye.
Garofalo, aye. Gomez.
Gomez, aye.
Gomez, aye. Green.
Green, aye.
Green, aye. Grossel.
Grossel, aye.
Grossel, aye. Gruenhagen.
Gruenhagen, aye.
Gruenhagen, aye. Gunther.
Gunther, aye.
Gunther, aye. Haley.
Haley, aye.
Haley, aye. Halverson. Halverson, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hansen.
Hansen, aye.
Hansen, aye. Hassan.
Hassan, aye.
Hassan, aye. Hausman.
Hausman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Heinrich.
Heinrich, aye.
Heinrich, aye. Heinzman.
Heinzman, aye.
Heinzman, aye. Her.
Her, aye.
Her, aye. Hertas.
Hertas, aye.
Hertas, aye. Hornstein.
Hornstein, aye.
Hornstein, aye. Howard.
Howard, aye.
Howard, aye. Hewitt.
Hewitt, aye.
Hewitt, aye. Johnson. Johnson, aye. Jordan.
Jordan, aye.
Jordan, aye. Jurgens.
Jurgens, aye.
Jurgens, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Cleavorn.
Cleavorn, aye.
Cleavorn, aye. Cagle.
Cagle, aye.
Cagle, aye. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, aye.
Katiza Watun, aye. Kosnick.
Kosnick, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Kreshaw.
Grisha, aye.
Kreshaw, aye. Kunish Podine.
Kunish Podine, aye.
Kunish Podine, aye. Lehman.
Lehman, aye.
Lehman, aye. Lee. Lee, aye. Lesh.
Lesh, aye.
Lesh, aye. Liebling.
Liebling, aye.
Liebling, aye. Lean.
Lean, aye.
Lean, aye. Lilly.
Lily, aye.
Lilly, aye. Lippert.
Lippert, aye.
Lippert, aye. Listlegard.
Listlegard, aye.
Listlegard, aye. Long.
Long, aye.
Long, aye. Lucero.
Lucero, aye.
Lucero, aye. Lewick.
Lewick, aye.
Lewick, aye. Mahoney.
Mahoney, aye.
Mahoney, aye. Man excused. Mariani.
Mariani, aye.
Mariani, aye. Markwart.
Markwart, aye.
Markwart, aye. Mason.
Mason, aye.
Mason, aye. McDonald.
McDonald, aye.
McDonald, aye. Mecklin.
Mecklin, aye.
Mecklin, aye. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Moeller.
Moeller, aye.
Moeller, aye. Moran.
Moran, aye.
Moran, aye. Morrison.
Morrison, aye.
Morrison, aye. Munson.
Munson, aye.
Munson, aye. Murphy.
Murphy, aye.
Murphy, aye. Nash. Nash, aye. Nelson, M.
Nelson M, aye.
Nelson, M, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson N, aye.
Nelson, N, aye. New. New, aye. Nor.
Nor, aye.
Nor, aye. Nornis.
Nornis, aye.
Nornis, aye. Novotny.
Novotny, aye.
Novotny, aye. O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll, aye.
O'Driscoll, aye. Olson.
Olson, aye.
Olson, aye. O'Neill.
O'Neill, aye.
O'Neill, aye. Pulowski.
Pulowski, aye.
Pulowski, aye. Purcell.
Aye.
Purcell, aye. Petersburg.
Petersburg, aye.
Petersburg, aye. Pearson.
Pearson, aye.
Pearson, aye. Pinto.
Pinto, aye.
Pinto, aye. Poppy.
Poppy, aye.
Poppy, aye. Poston.
Poston, aye.
Poston, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, aye.
Pryor, aye. Quam.
Aye.
Quam, aye. Richardson.
Richardson, aye.
Richardson, aye. Robbins. Robbins, aye. Runbeck. Runbeck, aye. Sandell.
Sandell, aye.
Sandell, aye. Sandsted.
Sandsted, aye.
Sandsted, aye. Sauk. Sauk, aye. Schumacher.
Schumacher,
Schumacher, aye. Schultz.
Schultz, aye.
Schultz, aye. Scott.
Scott, aye.
Scott, aye. Stevenson.
Stevenson, aye.
Stevenson, aye. Sundin.
Sundin, aye.
Sundin, aye. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Tabke.
Tabke, aye.
Tabke, aye. Tice.
Tice, aye.
Tice, aye. Torkelson.
Torkelson, aye.
Torkelson, aye. Erdahl.
Erdahl, aye.
Erdahl, aye. Vang.
Vang, aye.
Vang, aye. Vogel.
Vogel, aye.
Vogel, aye. Wagenius.
Wagenius, aye.
Wagenius, aye. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, aye.
Wozlowick, aye. West.
West, aye.
West, aye. Winkler. Winkler, aye. Wogelmont.
Wogamot, aye.
Wogelmont, aye. Zhang Jie.
Song J, aye.
Zhang Jie, aye. Zhang Ti. Zhang Ti. Joachim.
Young T, aye.
Zhang Ti, aye. Joachim.
Joachim, aye.
Joachim, aye. Speaker Hortman. Speaker Hortman, aye. Dean.
Dean, aye.
Dean, aye.
There being 132 ayes and 1 nay, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions online. If there's no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. Announcements. Representative Johnson.
Madam Speaker, members, I'll be as quick as I can here. As many of you know, and some of you might not have known, yesterday was National Peace Officers Memorial Day. And unfortunately, a miscommunication occurred, so I'm speaking on that today. But on October 1st, 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed into law, making the week of May 15th would be Peace Officers or National Police Week, and on May 15th would be Peace Officers Memorial Day. Since Minnesota became a state in 1858, Minnesota has lost 271 officers in the line of duty, with 160 due to assault of some type. This past year, we unfortunately lost another officer in the line of duties, whose name was put on the wall in Washington yesterday. That was Red Lake Conservation Officer Shannon Lee Opie Barron. He lost his life due to a heart attack while responding and answering a poaching call. Peace officers across the state played an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of all the citizens of this state. And it is important that everybody know and understand the duties and responsibilities, hazards, sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that the members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. The men and women of our law enforcement agencies across this state unceasingly provide this vital public service. With May 15th being Peace Officers Memorial Day, I want to thank them for their service to our communities across this great state. And I would ask before you leave the Capitol this weekend to take time to walk down to the Peace Officers Memorial on the southeast end of the plaza and take a moment to thank those who gave their lives to protect us. I spent some time there yesterday morning as I personally knew too many of those who did that ultimate sacrifice. Speaker Hortman, I would ask for a moment of silence for the Conservation Officer Shannon Lee Opie Barron and all the officers that we've lost across this state. Thank you.
Members, please rise for a moment of silence. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 10 a.m. Sunday, May 17, 2020.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 10 a.m. Sunday, May 17th, 2020. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. Here.
You want to do this? You were? Well, you still can.
We did the non-controversial motions. We weren't certain there were any other motions that wished to proceed tonight. So knowing that there is one, we will move to the Runbeck motion.
Runbeck moves that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that House File Number 4649 be recalled from the Committee on Transportation, Finance, and Policy Division, be given its second and third readings, be placed upon its final passage.
Representative Runbeck, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to bring this motion tonight. I was hoping for a roll call vote. I'm not sure how that would proceed, given that we will be adjourning. Perhaps
You may
could
request a
advise
roll
me.
call. We've waived the rule. We can meet past midnight, and you can request a roll call, and although there's not 15 members in the chamber, we can ask online.
We're going to have a roll call on the second motion because it's suspending the Constitution automatically. This one we could probably do by voice, if that's okay with you.
Representative Runbeck, the clerk informs me that on the first part of your motion, we can do a roll call if you'd like, but on the second part of your motion, a roll call is required because we'd be suspending the Constitution. So you will get a roll call vote, but you can have two or one. Up to you.
Madam Speaker, I'm not certain I understand that there's a reason for two. I don't see that in my information.
She'll get one on the suspending the Constitution and on the actual bill.
Oh, okay,
Two
so
roll
you're
calls.
saying it's...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's one motion, but because the motion is suspending both the rules and the Constitution,
One is just suspending the rules. We can do that with a voice vote. The second motion is to suspend the Constitution with a roll call.
or like I said the first time, there's two motions. Your first motion is to suspend the rules. You can request a roll call on that. Your second motion is to suspend the Constitution. Your roll call is automatic on that.
Well, Madam Speaker, in what way would I be suspending the Constitution?
Representative Runbeck, the Constitution requires that a bill be read on 3 different days, and you would be moving to suspend the requirement that a bill would be read on 3 different days.
Right. Well, Madam Speaker, then I'm only interested in suspending the rules that would allow for the bill to be brought forth, and then a vote on the bill would be on a different day. Is that how that would work?
No.
You have to suspend the Constitution to bring the bill up.
Yes.
Representative Runbeck, you have to suspend the Constitution to bring the bill up for immediate consideration because it has not been given 3 readings on 3 separate days.
All right. Well, that would be my motion, Madam Speaker.
Okay, the motion to suspend the rules is before the body. I read that. So
Is the
all
mic
those in
not on?
favor? Aye.
So the motion, the first vote that we will take is on the motion to suspend the rules.
All right. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
So we got to vote on it.
Okay.
All those in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no.
No.
She's going to get one on the next motion.
Regardless
of how the Regardless,
first
yeah.
motion goes?
Well, no, if the first one loses, no, then that's it.
Pat, she wants to vote.
Yeah, but you don't want to take 3 votes on this.
I know, but she's not gonna get enough.
3 roll calls, okay.
Yeah. This is. All right.
Representative Runbeck requests a roll call. Are there 15 hands? Members, if you wish to raise your hand, please send an email to hands@house.mn. I can't really see 15 hands when there's only 13 members in the room.
I've already got 8 on the phone.
All right. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. On the motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of House File 4649, Representative Runbeck, have you said all you would like to say about the bill before we vote on your motion?
Well, Madam Speaker, I would like to make just a couple remarks.
Representative
If I
Runbeck.
could. All right. Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. And sorry to do this at so late at night, but as you know, the hour is wasting. And here we are, just 24 hours from the adjournment of session, and we haven't answered a major problem that families all across Minnesota, 60 to 80,000 families across Minnesota, who've been hoping that their 16 and 17-year-olds might be getting their driver's licenses this summer. That's the point of the bill. The bill waives temporarily the need to actually take the test. If their student has passed the requirements for their instructional permit, they would be allowed then to apply for the next stage, which is the provisional permit, and get that provisional license. So that's the point of the bill. And I guess the whole thing is there's a severe lack of capacity in our driver's testing system. So we have exam stations around the state, but not where we need them and not where the volume of the population is. We don't have enough examiners. We've had a COVID shutdown, which canceled 20,000 appointments. We had a backlog of about that much prior to COVID. And then you have a new crop of high schoolers who've just graduated and who are hoping they can get a driver's license this summer. They have jobs. The families need them for all kinds of things that they have planned. It's an important way to get the economy going. But they are looking at surely 5 to 6 months down the road with our current operation in the Department of Vehicle Services. And so this bill would expedite getting those folks licensed so they can get on with their lives. So I am urging folks to take up this bill. We have not had any luck getting a hearing in the House. There is a good bill over in the Senate, but we don't know where that is. And we have a session that's adjourning. So I think we are leaving a lot of families in the lurch. We are coming up short, and they think they have no relief in sight. So that is the urgency here, Madam Chair, and I would love to have the body's support. That is a commitment that we are going to get something done for these families.
Representative Hornstein.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would urge a no vote on this motion. This bill was just introduced last week, and it is very short-sighted. First of all, we have very high fail rates for 16, 17, and 18-year-olds on this test. In fact, 25% of the 16-year-olds fail, 34% 17-year-olds, 42% 18-year-olds. This is, there are many concerns that have been raised by driving schools, the AAA, the Department of Public Safety. This has not been vetted. We also are now in a situation where we have many traffic deaths, even though there's less people driving, because we have a lot of speeding. And so it would be irresponsible to waive the road test at this time. The Department of Public Safety has a plan to address the backlog. We'll be vetting that in my committee, in the Transportation Committee, in a couple of weeks. And some driving testing stations will be opened up in the coming weeks. This is unnecessary. It's reckless. I urge a no vote.
The member from Chisago, Representative New.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. And I want to take a moment just to thank Representative Runbeck for bringing this forward. Members, we really do have a crisis in our state when it comes to being the ability to have a driver's license exam. Prior to the COVID-19 emergency, people were scheduling these exams months out and traveling all over the state in order to be able to find an exam station that was available. We actually have a statutory requirement of receiving an exam within just a couple of weeks and within a reasonable distance of one's home. Those things have not been happening for quite some time. The emergency that's been created by COVID has only exacerbated the problem. This is an actual crisis. People are going to be in a situation where they cannot get a driver's license and will be unable to get to work, to find decent employment. There are real consequences of what is happening at the department and the lack of ability to get these tests. Something needs to be done. So thank you, Representative Runbeck, and I would encourage a yes vote.
Representative Runbeck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just a few words of comment to Representative Hornstein. First of all, let's keep in mind that the folks that are ready to take their provisional license, they have already been, they've passed the knowledge test. They have been through at least 6 months of driving in a car with an adult supervising them. They've had a lot of that kind of behind the wheel of experience. And I think that the parent who is sat there with them, who has to, by the way, sign the application for the provisional license, is the best person to assess their teen's ability to drive. They've seen it, they've observed how that person is reacting in the automobile. So I am not uncomfortable with that. Furthermore, I think we need to know a bit more about the test and what it means. I mean, we do know that a significant percentage of folks are failing, and simply because they have failed the parallel parking portion of the test. So I think we need to understand a bit more about really what that means. But I feel that this is the time we need to expedite. The DVS will not get through the backlog they have in any other way unless there's some expeditious manner. They have said that they are opening their testing stations May 26th, but the hours that are posted are 8 o'clock to 4:30 p.m., which is really just business as usual. This is not a business as usual situation. We need ideas out of the box. And so I'm thankful that Representative Hornstein is talking about a hearing, and maybe he could confirm for us if there are details available to the public, perhaps that could be shared. A time and a date would be very helpful. We do need to have just the information out there that there is relief in sight. Something will be happening.
Are you asking Representative Hornstein to yield?
Madam Speaker, I am.
Representative Hornstein, will you yield?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, I will yield, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Representative Runbeck.
Representative Hornstein, I wondered if you had mentioned that there would be a hearing. Do you have details on that hearing that we might share with the public here tonight?
Representative
yes.
Hornstein.
Madam Speaker, thank you, Representative Runbeck. We are still checking with the House Information Services. We want to make sure that we can choose a date and a time that work for them so that the public can participate in this hearing. We'll be inviting all of the different folks that have an interest in this. And, keep in mind that teenagers are also involved in more fatalities than other older drivers. And so we have to really make sure that we're keeping our kids and families safe in this situation. So we want to make sure that everybody that has expertise in safe driving and these tests, as you mentioned, will be able to participate. So This hearing will happen, we hope, before the end of the month, but we have to clear a date with House Information Service.
Representative Runbeck.
Well, thank you, Representative Hornstein. I'm glad this is on the record. I think that there will be plenty of demand for folks wanting to speak and share their insight. You know, the options that we might turn to are limitless. We need to find a way to get 60,000 young people through the system, and not by August or September. It needs to happen by the middle of July. I mean, they've got lives. They want to get on with their lives, and, you know, they've missed quite a few rites of passage with COVID and lack of graduation ceremonies and senior proms, etc. So I think it's, you know, up to us, and I think we can do it, and I'm very optimistic that we can come with a solution that can be implemented very, very quickly. So thank you, Representative. And I would appreciate a green vote. I think that the vote itself is what will tell folks that we are serious, that we really mean it, and that this adjournment does not mean for them that they should sense a bleakness about anything positive developing. So I would appreciate a green vote from everyone in the caucus. This is a suburban issue, this is a rural issue, and it's a metro issue as well. Thank you.
The clerk will take the roll on the Runbeck motion to suspend the rules.
Acom.
Acom, no.
Acom, no. Albright.
Albright, aye.
Albright, aye. Anderson. Anderson. Backer.
Backer, aye.
Backer, aye. Bonner.
Bonner, no.
Bonner, no. Barr. Barr, aye. Baker.
Baker, aye.
Baker, aye. Becker, Finn.
Becker, Finn, no.
Becker, Finn, no. Bennett.
Bennett, aye.
Bennett, aye. Bernardi.
Bernardi, no.
Bernardi, no. Bierman.
Bierman, no.
Bierman, no. Bow.
Bow, aye.
Bow, aye. Brand.
Brand votes no.
Brand, no. Cantrell.
Cantrell, no.
Cantrell, no. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, no.
Carlson, A, no. Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, no.
Carlson, L, no. Christensen.
Christensen, no.
Christensen, no. Claflin. Claflin. Considine.
Considine, no.
Considine, no. Daniels.
Daniels, yay.
Daniels, aye. Doubt. Doubt, aye. Davids. Davids, aye. Davney.
Dabney votes no.
Davney, no. Dean.
Dean votes no.
Dean, no. Damath.
Damath votes aye.
Damath, aye. Detmer.
Detmer, aye.
Detmer, aye. Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, aye.
Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, aye.
Drazkowski, aye. Eklund.
Eklund, no.
Eklund, no. Edelson.
Edelson, no.
Edelson, no. Elkins.
Elkins, no.
Elkins, no. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Fabian. Fabian, aye. Fisher.
Fisher, no.
Fisher, no. Franzen.
Franson, aye.
Franzen, aye. Freiberg.
Oh, Raymond.
Freiberg votes no.
Freiberg, no. Garofalo. Garofalo.
Okay. Somebody wake him up.
Gomez.
Gomez, no.
Gomez, no. Green.
Green, aye.
Green, aye. Grossel.
Russell, aye.
Grossel, aye. Grunhagen.
Grunehagen, aye.
Grunhagen, aye. Gunther.
Gunther, aye.
Gunther, aye. Haley.
Haley, aye.
Haley, aye. Halverson. Halverson, no. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hansen. Hansen.
Hansen, no.
Hansen, no. Hassan.
Hassan, no.
Hassan, no. Hausman.
Houseman, no.
Hausman, no. Heinrich.
Heinrich, aye.
Heinrich, aye. Heinzman.
Heinzman, aye.
Heinzman, aye. Her.
Her, no.
Her, no. Hertas.
Hertas, aye.
Hertas, aye. Hornstein.
Hornstein, no.
Hornstein, no. Howard.
Howard, no.
Howard, no. Hewitt.
Hewitt, no.
Hewitt, no. Johnson. Johnson, aye. Jordan.
Jordan, no.
Jordan, no. Jurgens.
Jurgens, aye.
Jurgens, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Cleavorn.
Cleavorn, no.
Cleavorn, no. Cagle.
Cagle, no.
Cagle, no. Katiza Wattoon.
Katiza Wattoon, no.
Katiza Wattoon, no. Kosnick.
Cosmic, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Kreshaw.
Grisha, aye.
Kreshaw, aye. Kunish Podine.
Kunish Podine, no.
Kunish Podine, no. Lehman.
Lehman, aye.
Lehman, aye. Lee. Lee, no. Lesh.
Flesh, no.
Lesh, no. Liebling.
Liebling, no.
Liebling, no. Lean.
Lean, no.
Lean, no. Lilly.
Lily, no.
Lilly, no. Lippert.
Lippert, no.
Lippert, no. Lislegard. Lislegard. Long.
Long, no.
Long, no. Lucero.
Lucero, yes.
Lucero, aye. Lewick.
Louis, aye.
Lewick, aye. Mahoney.
Mahoney, nay.
Mahoney, no. Mann, excused. Mariani.
Mariani, no.
Mariani, no. Marquardt.
Marquardt, no.
Marquardt, no. Mason.
Mason, no.
Mason, no. McDonald. McDonald. Mecklin.
Mecklin, aye.
Mecklin, aye. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Moeller.
Moeller, no.
Moeller, no. Moran.
Morant, no.
Moran, no. Morrison.
Morrison, no.
Morrison, no. Munson.
Munson, aye.
Munson, aye. Murphy.
Murphy, no.
Murphy, no. Nash. Nash, aye. Nelson M.
Nelson M, no.
Nelson M, no. Nelson N.
Nelson N, aye.
Nelson N, aye. New. New, aye. Nor.
Nor, no.
Nor, no. Nornis.
Nornis, aye.
Nornis, aye. Novotny.
Novotny, aye.
Novotny, aye. O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll, aye.
O'Driscoll, aye. Olson.
Olson, no.
Olson, no. O'Neill.
O'Neill, aye.
O'Neill, aye. Pulowski.
Pulowski, no.
Pulowski, no. Purcell.
Purcell, no.
Purcell, no. Petersburg.
Petersburg, aye.
Petersburg, aye. Pearson.
Pearson, aye.
Pearson, aye. Pinto.
Pinto, no.
Pinto, no. Poppy.
Poppy, no.
Poppy, no. Poston.
Poston, aye.
Poston, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, no.
Pryor, no. Quam.
Quam, aye.
Quam, aye. Richardson.
Richardson, no.
Richardson, no. Robbins. Robbins, aye. Runbeck. Runbeck, aye. Sandell.
Sandell, no.
Sandell, no. Sandsted.
Sandsted, no.
Sandsted, no. Sauk.
Sauk, no.
Sauk, no. Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
Schumacher, aye. Schultz.
Schultz, no.
Schultz, no. Scott. Scott. Stevenson.
Stevenson, no.
Stevenson, no. Sundin.
Sundin, no.
Sundin, no. Swazinski.
Swazinski, yes.
Swazinski, aye. Tabke.
Tabke, no.
Tabke, no. Tice.
Tice, aye.
Tice, aye. Torkelson.
Torkelson, aye.
Torkelson, aye. Erdahl.
Erdahl, aye.
Erdahl, aye. Vang.
Vang, no.
Vang, no. Vogel.
Vogel, aye.
Vogel, aye. Wagenius.
Wagenius, no.
Wagenius, no. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, no.
Wozlowick, no. West.
West, aye.
West, aye. Winkler. Winkler, no. Walgamot.
Walgamot, no.
Walgamot, no. Zhang Jie.
Zhong J, no.
Zhang Jie, no. Zhang Ti.
Young T, no.
Zhang Ti, no. Joachim.
Joachim, no.
Joachim, no. Speaker Hortman. Speaker Hortman, no. Anderson. Anderson. Claflin. Claflin. Garofalo. Garofalo. Lislegard. Lislegard. McDonald. McDonald. Scott. Scott.
There being 55 ayes and 72 nays, the motion does not prevail. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. Sunday, May 17th, 2020.